Take it away, Brian.
Is this chicken farming for the soul?
You can call it that. You can call it that. So I've had this kind of just this notion of being self-sustainable, and at some point you should probably get Kip Nash to come in and talk. And there's another individual in our neighborhood, in Martin Acres, that does neighborhood farming. He farms, basically grows produce in your front yard. And I actually decided this past season, to do the same thing. And I rooted out my entire front yard. I started growing vegetables, and I was like, this is amazing. This is great. And I was talking to another colleague of mine, another teacher at Centaurus, and she mentioned that she's just got into chickens and just crazy about chickens. She had 2 chickens, and they lay eggs every day. You get 2 eggs every day, and it's just unbelievable. And she said, hey, listen, I was talking to her at the end of last summer, and she said, I'm going to the county fair to pick up chickens, to check out their chickens. And I was like, you go to the county fair to do this? Really? And I'm like, you go to the county fair to ride roller coasters and eat funnel cakes and hot dogs, but buy chickens? And there's the whole 4-H part. And I'm not sure how many of you guys participated in 4-H, and I didn't growing up. But there's the whole 4-H part of this, where you raise your livestock or whatever it is, and you show it. At the end of the show, they have they say that some of the livestock will be available for purchase. And so the poultry showing was on like a Thursday or something, and they start the showing at 8 a.m. The judging from 8 a.m. to like, I don't know, 6 p.m. and they will not allow any sales until after 6 p.m. And you guys can look it up at bouldercountyfair.org if you guys are interested. And they sell pullets, which are basically a chicken that's under 1 year of age. And they have just the range of chickens is phenomenal. It's just vast. And you have to know which ones are, there's different types. There's laying chickens, and then there's meat chickens. And so, and then there's just ornamental, which is the pretty ones. And they're just good for looking at, not good for eating, not good for laying eggs, just good for looking at. Right? So before I went, I did a little research, and there's a couple breeds that I looked at. Rhode Island Reds. Rhode Island Reds are traditional, very good demeanor. Buff Orpingtons are good. And anyway, there's a few that I was looking at, and I went there with these in mind. And I got there at 6:30, so 6 o'clock was when they opened the doors. Turns out that there was a mad rush. I talked to one of the kids there. At 5 o'clock, there were women harassing him to sell their chickens. These are like 10-year-old kids that spent like the last 4 months raising this chicken. And there's these women with cages that are ready to, here's the money, give me your chicken. And I was just blown away. So I got there at 6:30, and most of the chickens I was looking for were gone.
Is it an auction, or is it?
You just find, so there's little tags, there's phone numbers on them. You say, I would like this chicken, and then you go and you talk to someone, and they go and find the kid who raised it, and then the money goes straight to the kid, which is cool. And then in general, it's about $10. You should expect to pay about $10 per chicken. These chickens are anywhere between 3 to 5 months old. They're just about primed to start laying, so they'll lay right around 4 to 6 months, somewhere around there. That's ideally when they start laying eggs. And so I got there, and I got 2 Rhode Island Reds. I was looking for an Americana, which is a chicken that lays colored eggs. They call it the Easter egg layer. It lays greenish, bluish, and sometimes pink eggs. So kind of just really exotic, just neat to find these eggs that are kind of colored. They're naturally colored. But the only ones they had there that were Americanas were cockerels, which are males or roosters. And in the neighborhood, you don't want roosters. You want roosters. And
thank you.
Just right, so anyway, so I got the 2 Rhode Island Reds, and I brought them home, and it's been kind of a long ordeal, but I did a little research, and actually it's interesting. Once I got these chickens, there's kind of a slew of articles, and I have a few of these printed out here. You guys are welcome to look at them here, but there's a slew of articles that were published in the Daily Camera and in the Boulder Weekly about backyard chicken farming and the rules and regulations behind it. Now, Boulder County allows chickens, and any number of chickens. The only thing that's limited is noise ordinance. And so you're limited by noise ordinance so you can't have roosters, because based on noise ordinance. And obviously odor and smell and all that stuff, you have to keep that down because of just neighbors. And so I have currently, well, I had the 2, and I can answer the questions of what happened to the 2. The 2, well, the first 2 got eaten by my dog. And I've been through a total of 14 chickens so far. But I've purchased 14 chickens. I have 6. I have 6 currently of the 14 that I've purchased. The others have been eaten or devoured by local predators. My dog only got the first 2. Foxes are a majority of the others. And then there's articles about Longmont allowing this. It turns out, funny enough, Erie, it's not allowed. You're not allowed to have chickens in Erie, which Erie seems very agricultural. But by law, you're not allowed to. And Longmont just recently discussed changing their laws to allow chickens or laying hens and fowl in your backyard. You can call them pets or you can call them livestock, whatever you want to call them.
Is there a tax cut? Is it considered a farm?
I haven't looked into that. I mean, I don't have enough to make it worthwhile. But
does Boulder have like a floor area ratio as far as how many?
I don't know if that counts as part of the floor area ratio. The coop is pretty small. And if any of you guys are interested in doing this, it's so generally the rule of thumb is somewhere between 3 to 4 square feet of area is needed per chicken. So not a lot of room, and the coop itself can be smaller than that, and my coop is smaller. That's where they sleep at night. And then there's a run. I have an enclosed run where they can walk outside and see the sunlight, and that's where I put the food and the water. Maintenance on a chicken is less than that of a dog, so any of you guys who own dogs or have pets, having chickens is much less. I go and I check on them. Well, right now they're not laying yet, but when they're laying, you go in there once a day, you harvest the eggs, and then you replenish food and water probably about once a week, depending on how many chickens and how big your feeder is. There's feed stores all across this area that'll help you out. The best website I found, and it's kind of humorous, it's called backyardchickens.com. And there are coop designs, there's a total forum on where to buy your eggs, where to buy your chickens, where to buy, just to get ideas. I brought this, and if anyone wants to look at it, this is one of the biggest hatcheries in the area. They're in Iowa. It's called McMurray Hatchery. And you can buy chicks that are day-old chicks for about $1.50 each. Now, the problem with Murray is that there's a minimum of 25 chicks. You have to buy 25 at a time. And so usually you go in with another person and say, hey, let's split this order.
Go out with your dog.
You can feed them. And if you guys are ever interested, the number of breeds, there are hundreds of breeds of chickens, and it's phenomenal just to read about them and know what they look like. And this has got really nice pictures and talks about how they're shipped. And then in the springtime, the feed store up in Longmont on every Sunday has chicks. They bring in, dozens of chicks, day-old chicks, and you just go in there and you're like, I want one of those ones, and you can hand pick them out.
That's Murdoch's, right?
Murdoch's, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them. They're like 89 cents.
Yeah. Now you run a risk because I think they're generally considered straight run. Straight run meaning they're not sexed, so they could be cockerels or they could be hens. And the day that they crow, and you have to be prepared to do this if you're going to raise livestock. You have to be prepared to do the deed, which is, you have to know where your food comes from. If you're going to eat chicken, if you're going to eat meat, you have to know that at some point there is a butchering process, and so you don't have to do it yourself. There are processing plants that will do it. We found one in near Fort Collins that will bag, freeze, feather, clean and bag and freeze a chicken for about $2.50, so under $3.
So you can eat a laying chicken.
Yeah.
You said some are for laying, some are for eating.
And then the ones that I have, majority of the ones I have are called dual purpose. They're heavy birds that grow large breasts and lots of meat, and they're good for both eating and for laying eggs.
Do they
but
lay